What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the JT Sports Podcast. I'm your host, JT, here with my college football Week 12 reactions and takeaways. I was wrong about Georgia. Turns out Georgia actually still is Georgia after all. They put Texas in the blender. I'll dive into what went right for Georgia in this game and what this win shows about what they could do in the postseason. How about Oklahoma? Coming up big on the road once again. Their defense showed out as they take down Alabama. And at the moment, they got a spot awaiting them in the college football playoffs as long as they can take care of business against LSU and Missouri. Texas A&M had a probable comeback win over South Carolina. There's a reason why they say the game isn't over until the fat lady sings. I got thoughts on USC and Notre Dame's wins. And I don't know if I'm the only person who feels this way, but offense in college football sucks right now. Offense is at an all-time low in this sport, and I got a few reasons for why this is the case. If you live, eat, breathe, and die football, congratulations, you have arrived at the right place. We're talking college football, NFL, 24/7, 365 days throughout the year. If you are a football junkie, make sure that you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you can get your daily football fix in. If you enjoy the content and you want to support the grind, all we ask is that you please, I beg, give JT Sports a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, JT Sports is available. View it as your early Christmas present to me, because we are 25-star reviews away from reaching our goal on Apple. We got a long way to go on Spotify, so help us get to 100 5-star reviews by the end of this year by rating JT Sports 5 stars wherever you get your podcast from. The links are down in the description and pinned comment down below, and let's dive into it. Georgia 35, Texas 10. I was wrong about Georgia. Turns out Georgia actually still is Georgia after all. I was really down on Georgia defensively coming into this game. I thought Texas offense would be able to take advantage of a Georgia secondary that has been rocky at times, a pass rush that hasn't really been that consistent. Well, Georgia's defense put Texas in the blender. They held Arch Manning to 5.8 yards per pass. Texas only had 23 rushing yards, 1.4 yards per carry, and Georgia was able to do whatever they wanted to do on offense. And Gunnar Stockton, despite the interception that he had, he played a flawless game. And to add insult to injury, Kirby Smart went full maniac mode, calling the onside kick up 10 in the fourth quarter. And that moment just put the icing on top of the cake for what was an absolute ass whooping for Texas. Are we sure Georgia can't win it all? Because right now, if the SEC championship game was today, they will play Texas A&M. And I think Georgia would smoke them. I also would take them over Indiana, Oregon, no matter if it was a home game, a away game, a neutral site game. I think Oregon and Indiana would get smoked by Georgia too. Georgia right now is playing their best football. Kirby Smart is coaching at a level that I don't think he's ever coached at before. It's not like Georgia was viewed as a world beater entering this season. They had their fair share of critics, their fair share of doubters. Remember, there were folks questioning if Gunnar Stockton would be good enough for Georgia to even reach the playoffs. Hell, Georgia fans somewhat questioned how good Gunnar Stockton would be. And let's not get started on the amount of people who wanted Mike Bobo fired. They wanted this man's head on a silver platter. And all Georgia has done on offense all year long is put 30, 40 up against everybody that they played. And there's only one team that can slow down Georgia, and that's Kirby Smart's kryptonite, which is Alabama. right now, Georgia is as good as any other team in the country, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them win a national championship. They don't have a lot of household names like they've had in years past. Guys like Jalen Walker, Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo. It's not a defense that when you look on the depth chart, when you look at the stats, there's a lot of big names that everybody in their household knows across America. But this is a Georgia defense that shows up in the biggest moments and in the biggest games. And that's all that really matters. And offensively, Gunnar Stockton has carried Georgia offensively. Their ground game wasn't that good last year. Gunnar Stockton has been a big reason for the improvement that we've seen out of Georgia's rushing attack this year. And he deserves to be mentioned in the Heisman conversation. He's been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the nation. He has 28 total touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. And Gunnar Stockton is the best quarterback that Kirby Smart has had as Georgia's head coach. And Georgia doesn't need for Gunnar Stockton to be a world beater. They've won with a lot worse. They won back-to-back natties with Stetson Bennett, the mailman, a walk-on. So if Gunnar Stockton is going to play this way and you get the same defensive effort that you got in this game against Texas, who really can stop Georgia? Ohio State? Yeah, we saw what happened the last time Ohio State went against Georgia. Now, I'm not saying that game would be a wash. Georgia definitely would be able to get right against Ohio State. It's a game that could go either way, but how can you bet against Kirby Smart? And that's why I took Georgia to win this game. But I expected for Texas to be competitive. I took them plus 7.5. And after Georgia's first touchdown, you already knew how this game was going to go. And you never really at one time during this game could question the outcome. Because Texas, for a team that has the most expensive roster in college football, they haven't looked like it. Texas boosters deserve a refund for the amount of money that they poured into this year's team. You have an average to slightly above average quarterback at best in Arch Manning, who has to overcome a lot of limitations with receivers that can't catch, an offensive line that isn't good. I mean, what did Texas boosters spend their money on? Where did Steve Sarkisian put all of Texas NIL money at? Because it wasn't in the right places. With the way this team has looked, Texas doesn't deserve a spot in the college football playoffs. Doesn't matter if they beat Texas A&M. This is not one of the 12 best teams in the nation. And I was shocked that the committee ranked Texas as high as what they did. Now, they used a bunch of different metrics. It wasn't just the eye test. They went off strength of record, strength of schedule, but there's not really any impressive win that Texas has. Oklahoma doesn't really count to me because John Mateer wasn't healthy in that game. He didn't play. If John Mateer plays in that game, the outcome could have been completely different. And then you had some scares against Kentucky, Mississippi State, and you were given the benefit of a doubt because the SEC is such a grind and there's so much parity in this league, and winning on the road in the SEC is tough for anybody. Understandable. But when you have the most expensive roster in the sport, you expect to compete and expect to show up against the best teams in the country. And Kirby Smart has official ownership of Steve Sarkisian in this Texas football program. And we got to start having a tough conversation about Steve Sarkisian. He's done a great job of rebuilding Texas football, making this a respectable program again. A program that should expect to be in the college football playoffs pretty much every single season. And they're on the verge of that not happening because Texas just wasn't that good. And I don't put all of the blame for the disaster that Texas season has been on Arch Manning. Arch Manning is good enough to win you games if you have a great team around him. He's not a good enough quarterback to overcome the amount of issues that he's had to deal with around him. And he was overhyped Nobody's denying that at this point. There's no point beating an already dead horse. But when you have an average to slightly above average quarterback, you got to be able to help elevate him. And Texas did a poor job of helping elevate Arch Manning. They did a poor job of helping Arch Manning be in a position to succeed with receivers that just have butterfingers for hands, an offensive line that is a far cry from what we've seen this Texas offensive line look like these last couple of years. They have one of the best offensive lines in football for the past 2 years. They're supposed to have one of the best offensive line coaches in America, bringing in some of the best offensive line recruiting classes, and I haven't really seen any of that. And for the amount of money that was spent on this year's team, this is a catastrophic failure of a season. Follow us on all social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at JT_, on X at JT__. TikTok, you can find us at JT__ as well. So you can stay up to date with everything that's going on with the JT Sports Podcast, along with updates and bonus content as well. Go ahead, follow us on Instagram and X. Links are down in the description and pinned comment section below. Oklahoma got it done once again on the road, taking down Alabama. 23-21 was the final. The best defense is the best offense when it comes to Oklahoma. This is their second straight game now where their defense has forced 3 turnovers. And in their past 2 games, they have forced 30 points off takeaways. And against Alabama, Brent Venables had Ty Simpson out there seeing ghosts. This is the worst game that Ty Simpson has played all year. Worse than how he looked week 1 against Florida State, because he threw 2 touchdowns in that game. In this game, he had 1 touchdown, a bad, very costly pick 6. He was under duress for the majority of this game. And I don't think that Ty Simpson is worth a first-round pick in the NFL draft. If you are a quarterback-needy team like the Raiders, the Jets, you shouldn't invest any first-round capital into Ty Simpson. Because Ty Simpson, for as good as how he has played this year, I don't really see a quarterback that is worthy of a first-round draft pick due to him already being surrounded by so much talent and him struggling under pressure. And we saw it in this game when you get a few hits on Ty Simpson and he gets rattled and he's uncomfortable in the pocket and you rush his decision-making, he's just off. And I know that every quarterback isn't that good under pressure, but for a guy that is viewed as a potential top 5, top 10 pick, I just really don't see it. And Oklahoma gave us the blueprint for how you slow down this Alabama offense. All you really just got to do is just send a bunch of pressure at Ty Simpson. If it can get home and you can get him on the ground a few times, he's not the same quarterback. When he's operating outside of a clean pocket or you just have moderate pressure in his face, the dude is surgical. And he just wasn't surgical in this game. Now, Oklahoma, what could they do if they're able to finish the deal and they win out the rest of this season and the games they have left against Mizzou and LSU? I mean, I could see them getting right with Notre Dame in the first round. Hell, I would die to see a first-round playoff game between Oklahoma and USC. Just the storyline in that game, Lincoln Riley going up against the team that he jumped ship to go to Cali for because he felt like he had a better shot winning the Natty at USC with the proximity to all the great recruiting he had, despite the success that he had at Oklahoma. That would be cinema. But with Oklahoma's offense, though, they still haven't shown that they can be trusted to make a deep playoff run. Because although their defense is playing outstanding, all of Oklahoma's losses this year have come when their defense wasn't able to force any takeaways. And their defense gives their offense good field position. easy points on the board. If you take away all of the turnovers that Oklahoma has forced over these last couple of weeks, the offense really wouldn't have too much to show for it. Now, John Mateer played an excellent game against Alabama. And although it won't show up in the box score how well John Mateer played, he took care of the ball, he made good decisions, and he reverted back to the John Mateer that we saw before his thumb injury. And I felt for the first time this year, John Mateer looked like the quarterback that Oklahoma was expecting when they got him and Ben Arbuckle as a package deal this past offseason. Because what he does running the football is incredibly special. John Mateer essentially is a running back when he runs the rock. He had a few plays. He had one touchdown for 20 yards when he broke a few guys. He just is a really hard guy to bring down in the open field for linebackers and defensive backs because he runs like an ox. He really does. And for the Alabama side of things, how are you Alabama and don't have a fucking kicker? You have the highest blue chip ratio in college football. 90% of your team is comprised of 5- and 4-star players, and you somehow have one of the worst kickers ever? I mean, come on, you are freaking Alabama. There's no excuse for you having a field goal kicker that's been as bad as the one they've had this year. And he tried to get mad when he missed a field goal that was the difference in Alabama winning and losing this game. Try to take it out on the long snapper. Not every single snap is perfect. At the end of the day, if you're a kicker and the ball is snapped, as long as you're not kicking on the laces, there's no excuse for you missing a field goal, dude. Alabama this week needs to hold some open tryouts on campus to find another kicker. Because at this point, you are not going to go that far in the playoffs if you have a kicker as unreliable as what they currently have. Kicker is the most underrated position in football because nobody ever talks about it when kickers are out there and they do their job. But it can be the difference in a lot of games because most games, especially come playoff time, come down to the wire, come down to a few missed opportunities. And the missed opportunity that Alabama had before halftime, they even went as much as going about having a huge gamble that they took, trying to get 2-3 extra yards to make the field goal a lot easier for this dude to make. And he still missed it. Still missed it, man. Like, Alabama needs to go and get them a damn kicker. Hell, I have a few years of eligibility left. I haven't played any college football. Get me out there to make a few of those kicks. I bet I could get it done. I bet a lot of us on the couch right now listening to this could go and make some of these field goals that this dude has missed. Man, you are Alabama. You need you a damn kicker. And Ryan Williams, we crowned him way too early. His fall off has to be studied. He doesn't look like a superstar when you watch him in a bunch of the biggest games that Alabama has played in this year. He just looks like another good receiver. He doesn't look like a Mekhi Lemon or a Jeremiah Smith. He's not even better than Malachi Tony, the true freshman receiver down there in Miami. He has a bunch of drops. He's had some bad fumbles this year. That fumble that he had on that punt return was a huge momentum boost for Oklahoma in this game. Ryan Williams just hasn't been what he was hyped up to be. And we get ahead of ourselves when there's a guy that has a good true freshman season. We start anointing him a lot earlier than what we should. Jeremiah is a lot different because Jeremiah Smith is a freak of nature. You don't find guys like Jeremiah Smith very often. He's 6'3", 220, 225 pounds, runs routes as good as anybody, runs like an ox after the catch. He's the perfect wide receiver. Ryan Williams is an elite big play receiver. At least that's what he was supposed to be. And he's not even the best receiver on his team. Jordan Bernard has been Alabama's go-to receiver this year. Ryan Williams just hasn't been that guy that he was hyped up to be coming off a phenomenal true freshman season. And maybe, you know, the success that he had last year got to his head. You know, sometimes you can have success early, get a little bit too big-headed, not put in the same amount of work as what you were before. Ryan Williams is still a good player. He just isn't the superstar that everybody thought he was entering this season. When Alabama needed offense in this game, they weren't going to Ryan Williams. They were going to running back Daniel Hill. And Daniel Hill, after this game, he deserves a lot more work than what he's gotten this season. This dude has a lot of finesse to be 6'1", 244 pounds, moving like this, wiggling the way that he was against Oklahoma. He was the unsung hero that kept Alabama in this game. 15 carries for 60 yards, averaging 4 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, 5 catches for 37 yards. Alabama needs to give Daniel Hill some more opportunities. There's no way you can have a player this talented sitting on the bench. This dude is a weapon. You can catch at 6'1", 244 pounds and run like this? Where has he been all season long? Especially with the struggles that Alabama has had running the football. And Jan Miller is a very talented back. But Daniel Hill could be really crucial for Alabama down this stretch, especially now with them having to go on the road in a few weeks to Jordan-Hare with a spot in the college football playoffs on the line. The last place that you want your destiny to be on the line in is against Jordan-Hare, or in Jordan-Hare going up against Auburn, because there's just a weird aura that Jordan-Hare has that makes any must-win game for Alabama a lot difficult than what it should be. Hell, Nick Saban's final season, he barely walked away with the win against Auburn. It took Jalen Milroe throwing a prayer on one of the final plays in that game to Isaiah Bond to win it. So with the way that Alabama has the tendency to play down to inferior competition under Kalen DeBoer, your playoff hopes being on the line against Auburn, having to win that game at Jordan-Hare is something that should scare Alabama fans, man. There's no guarantee that you win that game. You should win that game, but there's a strong chance that you lose that game and you're sitting 9-3 like you were last year, outside looking into the playoffs. Texas A&M pulled off an improbable comeback. They were down 30-3 at half against South Carolina. Everything that could have went wrong for Texas A&M in the first half of this game went wrong, and then some. Marcel Reed was throwing more passes to South Carolina than what he was to his own team in the first half. He had 2 back-to-back interceptions before a halftime. You had 3 dropped interceptions as well. KC Concepcion dropped a wide open touchdown. You had an easy missed field goal. It was a chip shot. And LaNorris and Dylan Stewart were just taking over this game. You talk about guys that look like they came out of a Marvel movie. Oh my goodness. LaNorris Sellers, when he threw that 80-yard touchdown to Nick Harper, I was like, man, it's going to be fun to see how Texas A&M pulls off this one, because one thing that I never questioned, even though that Texas A&M was down 30-3, was them walking away with the win. Because South Carolina has the record that they have for a very good reason. And teams that have as bad as the seasons what South Carolina has had always show you why their season is what it is. And we saw that in the second half. Shane Beamer, he was going into the tunnel at halftime, you know, like taunting the crowd. It's like, Shane Beamer, you have 30 more minutes left. There's a reason why they say the game isn't over until the final whistle blows. The game isn't over until the fat lady sings. And Shane Beamer thought the fat lady was singing when South Carolina was up 30-3. And you know what Texas A&M did in the second half? They used that trapdoor escape button. You see, I have a theory called the trapdoor escape theory. Great teams find ways to win in dire circumstances. And Texas A&M has spammed this trapdoor escape button several times this year. Against Auburn, they used it. Against Notre Dame, when they won that game, they used that button as well. Texas A&M is a good team. And even though they haven't played as difficult as a schedule as what teams like Alabama and Georgia have, the difficulty of your schedule doesn't define how good of a team you are. And the fact that Texas A&M was able to come out in the second half and completely blank South Carolina, scoring on 4 out of their last 5 possessions, and they almost fumbled the game away, but they were still able to win, tells you how good of a team this is. Texas A&M played their worst game and still found the way to win in spite of the circumstances. Everybody was glorifying Indiana for barely beating a dead Penn State team on the road. So why are we going to use Texas A&M's remarkable comeback win over South Carolina against them as an argument for why they're frauds, why they're overrated? If anything, I walked away from this game more impressed from Texas A&M due to their ability to handle adversity. Who you are in the face of adversity defines you. Pressure either bursts pipes or makes diamonds. And we found out what Texas A&M was in this game. When everything wasn't going right for them, they still found the way to weather the storm. In the SEC, the amount of parity that's in this conference and the fact that nobody wants to admit that the SEC is the best conference, they want to mark it up as weird bias that doesn't exist. There's not a huge difference between Texas A&M and South Carolina from a talent standpoint. Yes, Texas A&M has a much better roster than South Carolina, but when you have monsters like Lenore Sellers, Nick Harbor, and Dylan Stewart, if those guys have the kind of games when they're just in the zone and they turn into Superman like how Lenore Sellers looked in the first half, they can get right with anybody. And there's a lot of bad teams in the SEC that have very good players, that have solid rosters. It's just that either they've had a few injuries, they don't got the quarterback right, or they're just not well coached. But the gap between the elite teams in the SEC and the average bad teams in this conference is not that wide. That's why you saw Ole Miss barely walk away with a win at home against a dead Florida team. That's just the nature of playing in the SEC. You don't have the luxury of being like a team such as Oregon that gets to beat up on the mid-Minnesota team, or Michigan who gets to beat up on the mid-Northwestern team. That's the difference between playing in the SEC and playing in the Big Ten, the ACC, the Big 12. Just because you have an expensive roster doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get easy wins every single week. If you play your worst game, no matter who you're going up against, you can lose. You can find yourself in a dogfight. You can find yourself having to scrap and claw your way to a win, like how Texas A&M had to. Texas A&M is still a top 4 team in America, in my opinion. They easily could have lost this game. They had so many chances to lose this game, and they still found the way to win because they were spamming that trapdoor escape button. 31-30 is the final. Texas A&M, all they got to do is beat Texas. We'll see how that game goes. It's on the road, but they control their own destiny. If they win out, no matter if you lose or win the SEC championship, as long as you beat Texas, I think that is safe, you securing that first round bye in the playoffs. If you don't want the starting quarterback for your favorite football team to play like Anthony Richardson, give JT Sports a 5-star review. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast from, JT Sports is available. The links are down in the description and pinned comment below. USC beat Iowa 26-21. USC Out Offenses Iowa. Iowa, they were able to play this game. This game, as a matter of fact, went the way I expected it to. Iowa had success running the football on USC because everybody has had success running the football against USC. They had 183 on the ground. They got the occasional big play, the put points up on the board. They got a huge 4th-and-1 stop early in this game on defense. And at one point, I was starting to think, damn, maybe I messed up taking USC to win this game. Maybe USC is going to get blown out in the Coliseum. And what made this the kind of game that Iowa was able to feel comfortable being in was the weather conditions mostly, because it was already raining for the last couple of days before this game kicked off. So the field conditions were a little bit slippery for the players. There were some USC players early on that had some issues with the cleats. But I felt once USC was able to get their offense going, they would be able to out-offense Iowa. And that's eventually what happened. Because Iowa, with the brand of football that they play, with how points come at a premium for them, they have to play perfect on offense. They can't afford any costly penalties, any bad turnovers. And USC's defense, although they have struggled against the run this year, they've been really good against the pass, and they've been phenomenal at coming away with big stops and big moments. And USC doesn't have a bad defense. They don't have a great defense either. Their defense is okay. It's good enough. Because the strength of USC is their offense. It's the fact that they have 2 receivers that are like 7-11. They're always open. And Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, they catch freaking anything. They're instant offense. You can't guard a single one of these guys in single coverage. Mekhi Lemon is Puka Nacua 2.0. He should be a future top 10 pick in next year's draft if there's any general manager that has common sense. But you know, common sense isn't always common sense. I don't know why it's called common sense, because common sense will tell you that Mekhi Lemon and Jacoby Lane, as long as these 2 brothers are on the field, USC can get right with anybody. And USC doesn't need to fully embrace being a traditional Big Ten team in order to win. You can still win with your style as long as you're able to have reliable defense. And USC's defense is reliable. If next week when they play Oregon, their defense is on the field and they need their defense to win the game for them, I believe that they have the ability to do so. Statistically, you can't judge USC's defense off stats. You have to judge them by what you see on the field, and their defense just finds ways to make big plays in the second half when it matters the most. Against Nebraska, their defense came up big. Now, you can argue the logistics of that game. If Dylan Raiola stays healthy, do they still win or lose? Doesn't really matter. We've seen USC's defense show up in the second half all season long in majority of their games. Now, yes, they have had some games when they just couldn't handle the certain physicality of certain teams like Notre Dame, especially when you have that monster Jeremiah Love, but everybody doesn't have a Jeremiah Love at running back. That dude is special. You know, this USC team is as good as it's ever looked under Lincoln Riley. This USC team is better than the team that Lincoln Riley had in year 1. And Lincoln Riley has been super amped up and animated this year for a very good reason. Lincoln Riley has taken this season at USC very personal because the past 2 years, his reputation took a massive hit. You got him being called soft, people questioning if the Big Ten would just run over his program because they wouldn't be able to handle the physicality of this conference. He's too finesse. You had hot seat talk that was starting to get louder. And it's understandable why Lincoln Riley showed the emotions that he did at the end of this game. I've never seen Lincoln Riley as passionate and as emotional as what he has been this season. Because this season, Lincoln Riley is using it as a statement season. Lincoln Riley now has the USC program that he envisioned when he jumped ship from Oklahoma to LA. Because with the level of recruiting that's in the area, you don't even have to leave your backyard. Talent's already there. And right now, although USC still has some ways to go to being a national championship contender, you know, this season is a step in the right direction. Now, they've had a few games that could have gone the other way, but hey, you can never downplay a win. A win is a win, especially when you're beating a very scrappy team like Iowa. I have a lot of respect for Iowa. Their college football is equivalent to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They still find ways to win 8, 9, 10 games every single damn year, despite not having great quarterback play, the offense being abysmal. They went off special teams, dominating the field position battle, and playing great defense. And most teams in college football can't win the way that Iowa has. Iowa is a respectable team. This is a great win for USC, especially considering they're about to play in their Super Bowl this upcoming week against Oregon on the road. And hey, whatever the spread is, I'm taking USC to cover. I'm not saying they'll win, but I'll take them if they're an 8.5, 9.5 point favorite. Because when you got Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, you got one of the best quarterbacks in college football that nobody seems to talk about, and Jayden Mayava, I trust USC to win games this year. And I can't say I've felt this way about USC over these last couple of years. This is a somewhat complete team. Do they have issues? Do they have holes? Yes, but every team has holes. Ohio State has holes. They just haven't been exposed yet because they haven't gone up against anybody good enough to expose their flaws. There are no such things as perfect teams in college football anymore. With NIL and the transfer portal, it makes it hard to have elite depth on the offensive line, on the defensive line. But one thing that's always consistent about USC, they're going to put points up on offense. And they were able to do that a lot better than Iowa. And that's why I trust them to win this game, but I took Iowa to cover. Iowa was able to make this an ugly game. They were able to make this an Iowa brand of football. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get enough plays out of the passing game in the end to win it. And USC's walking away with the win and a shot at locking up a spot in the college football playoffs as long as they're able to beat Oregon next week. Notre Dame decapitated Pitt. Pat Narduzzi got humbled in this game. Marcus Freeman, in his post-game exchange for Pat Narduzzi, he brushed him off. He shook his hands, he looked him in the eye, but he wasn't trying to conversate with Pat Narduzzi. With Brian Kelly now being out of a job, Pat Narduzzi is easily now the most easily unlikable coach in college football. This dude literally had the audacity to say that this game didn't matter because it didn't impact their chances of making it to the ACC championship. What he was doing was trying to take an indirect shot about Notre Dame not being in the conference. And Notre Dame does need to be in the effing conference for them to deserve a spot in the college football playoffs. Because when you watch Notre Dame play, you can obviously tell that this is one of the best 12 teams in America. You don't need for them to be in the conference to see that. They have played a respectable schedule. Notre Dame, their schedule that they played this year is power rated top 15 in America. Beating Pitt is a solid win. They also have wins over USC, Navy, who could end up winning the American. Pitt could end up winning the ACC. And with how their defense harassed Mason Heichel, which was expected because he's only 18 years old. This is his first loss as a starter, but I mean, he had no shot in this game. He was averaging 3.8 yards per pass. He got sacked 4 times. He was running for his life on every drop back. Notre Dame was on his ass. And it didn't help that Pitt gave an 18-year-old true freshman quarterback going up against one of the best defensive minds in college football, one of the best defenses in all of America, no help. Pitt had an offensive line that was ranked 123rd in FBS and sacks per game allowed. They had a below-average run game. Pitt had no chance in hell at winning this game, especially when you got your head coach making the comments that he made saying that this game didn't matter. Pitt was 0-13 on third down. They were going backwards, it felt like, all game. Notre Dame, defensively, this was a clinic. It was a clinic. And Jeremiah Love is the perfect running back. He moves like something that you would see out of a freaking Marvel movie. It's kind of unreal how Jeremiah Smith was able to pull off that spin move and break off that huge touchdown. Once he got that touchdown, I knew this was finna be a blowout. Jeremiah Smith is Saquon Barkley, but 15 pounds lighter. He has insane explosions. He has incredible change of direction. Once he gets to the second level of your defense, good luck. You're not going to know what the fuck to do if you're a safety or a corner and you got to make an open field tackle on Jeremiah Love. Because the dude can hurdle you. He can run your ass over. He can stiff arm you. He can put a juke move on you. There's just so much that Jeremiah Love has in his bag. There's no way that he shouldn't be a top 10 pick in the draft next year. This is what you expect from a top 10 running back. When you draft the running back in the top 10 in the draft, you're expecting elite explosiveness, somebody that has instant acceleration, somebody that has the ability to take over a game and break it wide open. And that's what Jeremiah Love did. And Pitt had the 5th best run defense in college football coming into this contest. And they had no ability to slow down Jeremiah Love. Notre Dame deserves to be in the freaking playoffs, bro. They're good on the line of scrimmage. They have a physical group of wide receivers and tight ends. CJ Carr has been one of the most efficient quarterbacks in America. And their schedule also is respectable as well. Their schedule is on par with Texas A&M's. Ole Miss. Like, I don't want to hear this BS about Notre Dame not being in the conference for a reason why they should be not included in the college football playoffs. They got close losses to Miami and Texas A&M, and they also got quality wins over a team that could win the ACC, over a team that could win the best G5 conference in America, and a USC team that right now is competing for a spot in the playoffs as well. Put Notre Dame in the freaking playoffs. Stop hating on this program. Notre Dame is the most overhated program in college football. People treat Notre Dame as if they haven't accomplished anything over this past decade. Like, it's crazy to me how people forget that Notre Dame was playing for a national championship last year. Notre Dame took down Georgia. They took down Penn State, but people still want to use this BS argument about them not being in the conference. They can't beat good teams. Have you been watching Notre Dame last year? Have you been living under a rock? There's a reason why every fan that has a head coaching opening available wants Marcus Freeman. Like, Notre Dame should be in the playoffs. If you ever get bored during the middle of the day and you're trying to talk some football, join the JT Sports Discord server, man. Link is down in description and pinned comment below. We're trying to talk some ball with you, man. We want to hear from you. Go ahead and join the JT Sports Discord server. All the links are in the description and pinned comment section below. Now, I don't know if it's me, but offense in college football right now is at an all-time low as far as productivity and quarterback play goes. Like, don't even get me started on the Pop Warner play calling that a lot of these teams seem to have, calling a million screens, a bunch of quick passes behind the line of scrimmage. Barely anybody has the balls to throw passes 10 yards or more. You got so many RPO heavy offense, a lot of these veer and shoot offenses. You got too many offensive coordinators scared to ask their quarterback to take shots downfield because they're scared as hell that they're going to turn the football over. College football, as far as offense goes, it sucks. And a huge reason for this is due to the transfer portal and NIL killing quarterback development in this sport. We are at an all-time low as far as quarterback play goes in this sport. There was a graphic that I saw on X that was going viral about all of these quarterbacks that were projected to be first-round picks coming into this season. Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers, Garrett Nussmeier, Drew Aller, Sam Leavitt. And all of these guys have not played up to expectation, partially due to them not being properly developed because they were playing in offenses that were too elementary, too middle school-like. And we barely have any elite or good quarterbacks in college football right now. There was a time when a decade ago, nearly half of a conference would have good quarterback play. It wouldn't just be the majority of the best quarterbacks residing in the Big Ten or the SEC. As a matter of fact, like, some of the better quarterbacks a decade ago came out of the conferences that weren't named the Big Ten or the SEC. Like, the Big 12 used to be a quarterback house for NFL level talent with guys like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Geno Smith, Brock Purdy. Now you have the majority of college football's best quarterbacks playing in the SEC. Why? Because in the SEC, you can't win if you don't have at least above average quarterback play or better. And even some of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, like Diego Pavia, they're not really NFL material. He's a good college quarterback, but he's not a good NFL quarterback as far as how his game would translate to the NFL. But Vandy has one of these quarterbacks. There are teams in college football that are a quarterback away from being playoff contenders, like Iowa. Like, the reason why you see such a drought when it comes to good quarterback play in this sport right now is that nobody stays in the system long enough to improve. College quarterbacks don't develop. They portal instead. And when you bounce around so much, you can never get comfortable in the offense. When you got to learn a new system, you got to learn new terminology, you can never really get comfortable. And then the offensive line play doesn't really do these quarterbacks any favor either. And that's why you have so many offensive coordinators that want to call all these screens, all these RPOs, because their offensive lines aren't good enough to hold up against defensive lines that have improved drastically over these last couple of years. Defensive line play has never been better, not just in college football, but in the NFL. You got guys like Dylan Stewart that freaking exist. I understand why a lot of offenses are terrified to have to ask their quarterback to sit in the pocket for a little bit of time and wait for some routes downfield to develop. I understand why they get conservative at times. But to build a good offensive line, you got to have a unit of guys that have played with each other for at least 2 or 3 years. But with the amount of portal movement that you see out of these offensive linemen, it makes it hard to sustain that continuity. So when you constantly have a revolving door of having to replace a center, an offensive guard, or a left tackle, it makes it hard to have a good offensive line. Just look at Oklahoma. Oklahoma, if they had a great offensive line, they easily would be a top 5 team in America right now. That's the only weakness that they have on that team. If the quarterback play was a lot better, yeah, they could be very good. But John Mateer is good enough. The offensive line just really isn't that good on the interior. So it kind of holds back the rest of the offense. But we just have a pandemic of terrible offense taking over college football. And it makes a lot of these games hard to watch. Like, I was watching Notre Dame Pitt earlier. And although Notre Dame won the game, they were calling a bunch of screen passes, a lot of these passes behind the line of scrimmage. And the only time they took shots downfield was when they had no choice to, because it was 3rd and long. And that's just like, man, come on. Open up the damn playbook. Open up the offense. CJ Carter is supposed to be one of the best quarterbacks in America. Tom Brady just gave him massive praise less than a week ago. Let the brother throw the football downfield. You're throwing all these checkdowns, all these short passes. Like, I get annoyed watching college football sometimes because of how pedestrian the offensive play calling is. Stop calling all these screens. Like, the NCAA needs to put a limit on the amount of screen plays that you can call, because it makes some of these games freaking unwatchable, bro. Stop being pussy, bro. Call some downfield plays. Let these quarterbacks let loose. How you expect these quarterbacks to grow and develop, and you holding them back because all you want them to do is throw these little 3-yard bubble screens, these 3-yard slants, like, yeah. And you wonder why Arch Manning hasn't lived up to the hype. You wonder why a lot of these quarterbacks that were projected to be first-round picks end up being massive flops. They're not being developed. They're not in offenses that allowed them to develop. That's why you have so many quarterbacks now entering the NFL that end up being bust. These are not NFL level offenses. At least Tennessee's offense, even though it doesn't prepare quarterbacks for the NFL, at least Josh Heupel isn't calling all these bubble screens. At least Josh Heupel is pushing the football down the field consistently. I'm not saying that every play needs to be a 40, 50-yard bomb, but all I'm saying is, can we stop with all of the conservative freaking play calling, bro? Please.